The year was 1893, and the world was changing faster than ever. Railroads carved through the land, cities grew restless with noise, and men with notebooks believed they could capture the truth of the frontier with nothing but ink. Among them was Elias Turner, a 23-year-old journalist hungry for a story that would make his name immortal. When whispers reached him of an Ozark tribe hidden deep within the mountains, one that practiced traditions outsiders dared not speak of, his curiosity became obsession. People warned him of their macabre customs, of the Cannibal Twins who were said to haunt their lore. Elias dismissed it all as superstition. To him, it was the perfect story, shocking, dangerous, and irresistible. So he packed his satchel, slung a notebook over his shoulder, and rode his horse south until the paved roads ended and silence swallowed him whole. With every mile, Elias felt both closer to glory and farther from safety. His first stop was a logging camp, perched like a scar at the edge of the forest. Men with axes and whiskey-burned voices eyed Elias as though he had stepped into the wrong story. That night, as Elias warmed his hands by the fire, an old lumberjack named Harlan sat beside him. "You heading deeper?" the man asked, his voice a gravelly rasp. Elias nodded, explaining his quest. Harlan chuckled darkly, lifting his hand to reveal 2 missing fingers. "The woods took these from me. Not beasts, not accidents. The people in there, they ain't for the likes of you." Elias tried to smile, but the man's gaze was heavy with memory. "Some stories," Harlan muttered. "Don't want to be told. And when you drag them out into the light, they drag something back with them." The fire popped. Elias turned his pen in his fingers, uneasy for the first time, but his hunger for discovery pushed him onward. The next morning, Elias left the camp before sunrise. The forest swallowed him almost immediately. The trees loomed unnaturally close, their branches twisted into shapes that seemed deliberate. Moss draped across trunks like old shawls. The deeper he went, the quieter the world became. Even the birds seemed to have abandoned the place. His compass spun without reason. His horse grew restless, and Elias realized with a chill that every step forward felt like stepping into a place meant to stay hidden. But then, just as doubt began to gnaw at him, smoke appeared between the trees. He dismounted, creeping closer, until a clearing revealed wooden huts arranged in a circle. Figures moved slowly, their faces painted with ash and clay, their gestures deliberate, almost ritualistic. Elias had found them. But as he stepped into the clearing, every head turned toward him. He realized too late, he hadn't discovered the tribe. The tribe had discovered him. The people said nothing as Elias was led into the village. Their gazes were unreadable, as though they were measuring him not as a man, but as a spirit. Finally, the crowd parted for Chief Waya, a towering figure with a chest like carved oak and eyes sharp as a hawk's. Elias bowed slightly, unsure what gesture would save him. The chief studied him in silence, then asked in a low, steady voice, "Why do you come?" Elias swallowed. "To listen, to write, to understand." There was no welcome, no warmth, only an unreadable tension, like a bowstring pulled taut. Then, after a long pause, Waya motioned for him to stay. Elias was given food, though no one shared his fire. That night, under the cold gaze of stars, Elias realized he wasn't merely a visitor. He was a guest, one being tested, watched, and weighed. And if he failed, he dared not imagine what hospitality meant in a place like this. The following night, as firelight painted the hut's gold, Elias dared to ask the question burning in him since the start. "I have heard of your legends, of the Cannibal Twins. Is it true?" The villagers stirred uneasily. No one answered. The silence stretched so long that Elias thought they would ignore him entirely. Then, an elder woman, her hair white as snow and her skin creased like folded maps, leaned forward. Her eyes reflected the flames as she whispered, "You want to know of the Cannibal Twins? Then you must listen as one who carries a burden, not as one who seeks a prize." Elias gripped his pen tightly. "They were not born evil," she said. Her voice hushed. "They were born hungry." The words seemed to hang in the smoke, heavy and alive. Elias wrote them down, his pulse quickening. Whatever this story was, it had already begun to consume him. The elder spoke slowly, each word deliberate, as though telling the tale might wake something that still listened in the dark. "Long ago, before the great river flooded, a woman gave birth beneath the blood moon. Twins, a boy, Cale, and a girl, Mara. But their mother bled too much, and she did not live to hold them. The midwives tried to feed the infants milk, honey, and broth. They wailed and wailed, their cries like knives. One night, their grandmother pricked her palm while weaving. A drop of blood fell onto Mara's lips. She grew quiet. The boy leaned close, and he too drank. For the first time since their birth, silence, sleep. From that day, no food satisfied them. No bread, no roots, no game, only blood. The tribe whispered in dread. Infants born of flesh, not of earth." Elias scribbled furiously, yet a shiver ran down his spine. This was not just a story, it felt like confession. The elder's voice deepened as she spoke of their childhood. "Cale and Mara grew like any children. They played, they laughed, they listened to stories. Their faces were bright as the morning sun. But when hunger came, nothing calmed them. Chickens vanished, then goats, then deer in the forest. Still, it was not enough. One winter, when food was scarce, a hunter wandered too far. He never returned. His bones were found near the river. Some said wolves. But the truth lived in the eyes of the children, stained with sorrow and something darker. We did not speak of it. We told outsiders of bears, of storms, of accidents. Inside, we carried our fear like a stone on the heart. They were not demons, yet neither were they like us. We loved them, we feared them, and in silence, we endured them." Elias felt a lump in his throat. He could almost see the children. Innocent, yet doomed by hunger they could not escape. Elias leaned closer as the elder's tale grew heavier. When the twins were 12, the council gathered. The people whispered of banishment, of burning, of curses. Yet none could raise a hand against children who clung to each other like vines to a tree. It was young Waya, then a warrior, who spoke, "They are ours. We will not cast them to wolves." So the tribe kept them. But mercy can be a blade sharper than cruelty. For every animal that vanished, for every traveler who did not return, the tribe's silence grew heavier. And the children, Cale with his quiet sorrow, Mara with her fiery defiance, learned that love was conditional, fragile, a rope stretched thin. They played by day, but by night their hunger grew, and in that hunger, innocence slipped away like sand through the fingers. Elias's hand trembled as he wrote. Mercy had saved the twins once, but mercy, he realized, can sometimes be the cruelest curse. That night, Elias could not sleep. The elder's story replayed in his head, each detail gnawing at him. He imagined Kyle and Mara not as monsters, but as children. His own younger brother's age when fever had taken him years before. He remembered the helplessness in his mother's eyes, the way she would have done anything to save her boy. What if salvation had demanded something unthinkable? Would he have condemned his brother, or justified it as survival? Elias dreamed restless dreams. He saw Cale and Mara standing at the foot of his bed, their eyes hollow, their hands reaching out. "Feed us," they whispered in voices that were both young and ancient. He woke, gasping, his pen still in his hand. For the first time, Elias questioned not only the truth of the tale, but whether he wanted to know the ending at all. The elder's voice carried the weight of final judgment as she continued. When Kyle and Mara reached 16, the council declared a test. For 7 days, they would fast. If they endured without blood, they would be declared purified, children of the tribe, not of the curse. For 6 days, they prayed. They sang. They smiled, thin but determined. Hope flickered like a candle in the dark. But on the 7th night, the youngest hunter vanished. His bow was found snapped in half. His bones lay in the ashes of a hidden fire. The elder's voice cracked. The trial was over. The tribe had its answer. Mercy had failed. Fear demanded judgment. Elias's pen stilled. His heart pounded. He wanted to ask, but dread already told him. What happened after the trial would decide whether the twins were remembered as victims or monsters. The elder's tone grew heavy, almost breaking under the weight of memory. When the hunters' bones were found, the council could no longer protect them. That night, the village gathered at the riverbank. The twins stood hand in hand, their faces streaked with ash. They did not cry. Cale's eyes brimmed with sorrow, but Mara stared boldly at the crowd. The council marked their foreheads with black ash, the sign of banishment. "You are no longer of us," they declared. "Go, and may the forest claim you." Kyle fell to his knees, begging for forgiveness, but no one stepped forward. Mara lifted him up, whispering, "We will not be forgotten." That same night, lightning split the sky and struck the tribe's storehouse, burning it to ash. Some called it chance. Others swore they saw Mara's eyes in the firelight. From that night on, the tribe lived not with hunger, but with fear of the ones they had cast away. Elias shivered. The story was no longer history. It felt like warning. The elder's eyes grew distant as though peering into decades gone by. After the banishment, the forest grew darker. Travelers vanished. Hunters found strange carvings in the trees, 2 figures, always hand in hand, watching. No one dared speak the twins' names. Silence was survival. Yet sometimes, in the hush of night, people claimed to hear singing, soft voices twining like vines carried on the wind. Mothers warned children not to wander too far, lest the hungry ones call to them. But deep down, we knew. They were not demons. They were the children we had abandoned. The elder's voice cracked. Mercy, cruelty, they are not so different when they both lead to exile. Elias sat frozen, his pen paused. This wasn't just folklore, it was confession, wrapped in grief and shame. He realized the tribe wasn't just haunted by the twins, they were haunted by their own choices. And in that silence, Elias felt the ground tremble with truths waiting to rise. The next morning, driven by restless curiosity, Elias slipped away from the village. Something pulled him deeper into the forest, as though the story itself wanted to show him its ending. After hours of wandering, he stumbled upon a cave hidden behind vines. Symbols carved into the stone sent chills racing down his spine, 2 figures hand in hand, just as the elder had described. Against every warning he entered. Inside, the air was cold, heavy with damp earth. The walls were painted with crude drawings, scenes of animals, hunters, and always the twins. At the center, a great circle of figures bowed before 2 tall shapes with hollow eyes. Elias raised his lantern higher and froze. Somewhere deeper in the cave, a sound echoed. It wasn't the wind. It was singing, soft, harmonious, childlike. His breath caught. Could the tale still be alive? Heart hammering, Elias followed the sound into the dark. The passage widened, revealing a cavern lit by strange, glowing moss. And there, standing in the half-light, were Cale and Mara. Older now, their bodies gaunt, yet their faces unmistakably human. Their skin was pale as bone, their eyes faintly luminous, their hands forever clasped together. They looked like people who had lived far too long, worn thin by both hunger and memory. You came, Mara whispered, her voice soft as drifting ash. Elias stumbled back, notebook shaking in his hands. Every tale, every whisper, had prepared him for monsters. But what he saw before him was not monstrous. It was tragic. Kyle stepped forward, his voice cracked with sorrow. We never asked for this. We only asked to live. Elias's chest tightened. For the first time, he realized the line between myth and man wasn't drawn by truth, but by fear. Elias found his voice at last. Why stay here? Why not return? Mara's gaze burned with both pride and despair. Return? To those who feared us? To the ones who carved hunger into our skin and then cast us away? Kyle touched his sister's arm gently. We never wanted blood. We begged the spirits to take the hunger from us, but no prayers were answered, so we survived as we could. Animals first, then men, always ashamed, always together. They stepped closer. If you write of us, tell the truth. Not of monsters, not of curses, but of children abandoned. Do not let us be remembered as shadows. Elias's heart wavered. A sensational story could make him famous, but compassion could give the twins the one thing they had never been given: dignity. And for the first time in his career, Elias wondered what his words would cost. Kyle's eyes glowed faintly in the dim. If you speak of us as demons, the world will hunt us. But if you speak of us as human, perhaps our souls will finally rest. Mara added, We are tired, Elias. Tired of hunger. Tired of being feared. Tired of carrying the name your people call us. Elias's throat tightened. He saw not monsters, but victims of circumstance, children marked by fate. Their love for one another had endured where mercy and cruelty had failed. The silence stretched long. His journalist's instinct urged him to seize the sensational. Cannibal Twins of the Ozarks would sell papers like wildfire, but another voice whispered, Truth isn't what sells. Truth is what heals. Before Elias could answer, shouts echoed at the cave entrance. The glow of torches flared against the walls. The tribe had come. Chief Waya entered the cave with warriors behind him, their spears gleaming in the torchlight. His voice boomed, Step aside, Elias. You have no place here. The curse ends tonight. Kale and Mara stood hand in hand, trembling but defiant. Kale whispered, We will not run again. Mara squeezed his hand. Elias's chest pounded. He knew what was about to happen. The tribe would not listen. They would not see. They had already written the twins' fate in fear long ago. But Elias could not move aside. His feet rooted to the stone, his arms outstretched. No, he cried. You do not see them. They are yours. They were always yours. The cave fell silent. The torches crackled. For the first time, Chief Waya's eyes faltered, uncertainty flickering like a shadow. Yet the warriors tightened their grips. Violence pressed against the silence, ready to break. Elias's voice trembled but grew stronger as he faced the tribe. You call them cursed, but it was not hunger that made them monsters. It was abandonment. You feared them, not loved them. You cast them into the dark, and then cursed them for surviving. Some warriors lowered their weapons, their faces heavy with doubt. Others snarled, unwilling to let go of fear. Kyle stepped forward, his voice breaking. We never wanted to harm you. We only wanted to belong. The words rippled through the cavern. Elias saw tears glisten in the elder's eyes. Even Waya's spear lowered slightly. For the first time, truth pressed heavier than fear. But it was Mara who ended the silence. We are tired, she whispered. Let us go, not with screams, but with peace. She reached into her robe and pulled out a small carved figure, two children, hand in hand. She placed it in Waya's palm, and then she turned toward the darkness. Hand in hand, Kael and Mara walked deeper into the cave. The ground trembled beneath their steps, dust falling from the ceiling. A rumble echoed like the mountain itself was answering their plea. Elias reached out, wanting to stop them, but his voice caught in his throat. "Do not follow," Mara said softly. Her eyes glowed with something almost tender. "We have carried this hunger long enough. Let it end with us." They disappeared into the shadows. Moments later, the earth shifted violently. Stones fell, sealing the cavern with a thunderous crash. Silence followed, heavy and final. The tribe stood stunned. Some wept, others dropped their weapons. Chief Waya closed his fist around the carved figure, his eyes wet with something he would never call sorrow. Elias realized the curse had not been ended by death, but by the choice of mercy, taken into the twins' own hands. Elias returned to St. Louis weeks later, his notebook full but his heart heavier than ever. He sat for days before writing, wrestling with what story to tell. He could have written of horrors and cannibals, of curses and monsters. That story would have sold. But instead, he wrote of abandonment, of children misunderstood, of how fear can turn innocence into legend and legend into nightmare. His article never made headlines. Editors dismissed it as too gentle, too strange. It was buried in the back of a local paper, forgotten by most. But years later, scholars found his words tucked in a dusty library, and readers wept at the compassion they carried. Some even ventured into the Ozarks, searching for carvings in the trees, two figures hand in hand, and those who found them whispered the same truth. Monsters are not born. They are made. By fear, by silence, by the love denied them. And sometimes love, however cursed, endures longer than fear.